Yeah, because I mean, so many of these issues, it's just like, well, that's a male problem, that's a female problem,
Yeah,
and I think we're evolving. So, like, even discussing stuff like male modesty.
I want to talk about that.
Yeah, and it's a puzzling term because, like, we typically think modesty is clothing, and how would I dress if I wanted to seduce? Like, would I be a fireman or like a cowboy or like
I've
people
tried
just laugh.
that,
It's like
people just laugh at me.
Yeah, it's like, what am I, the village people here? You're like, what is going on?
Yeah, I want to talk about this because I feel like there's kind of two pitfalls you can fall into. One, the idea that only women ought to be concerned about modesty, and then the other that we're exactly the same, and therefore modesty has to be exactly the same with each.
Yeah.
Thomas Aquinas talks about modesty in the Summa, and he talks about it sort of like almost like an arrogance in outward appearance and action. So if you were going to a soup kitchen and you got all dressed up and bling bling and looking good, and that's kind of immodest. You know? But let's talk about that. What does modesty mean?
Yeah, well, modesty is a proper attitude towards greatness, of humility. And so it's the greatness of the body. It is, what modesty is, I think of it as an invitation to contemplation. So it's a woman, at least when we're talking about feminine modesty, is inviting a man to realize there's a lot more about her than just her body. Because her sexual value is great and it's wonderful, but it's not the best thing about her. But because it's so intoxicating, if we see just a little bit too much of it, it can so easily obscure the value of the entire person. And so the virtue of chastity and modesty, one of the things it does is try to order our human values. So yes, your sexual value is good, it's great. But your value as a human person is a greater good. And what lust is when the sexual value of the person supersedes their personal value. That's the best thing you have to offer, your sensual value. And so modesty helps to put these things in proper order. And so it's not saying the body's bad. And I try to point out to women that a lot of girls get a little ticked off when you talk about modesty. Because like, well, if a guy has a bad imagination, that's his problem. And I understand where they're coming from, because like literally for thousands of years, the whole problem of lust has been blamed on the woman, the body of the woman. It's your outfit. You're the woman caught in adultery. You're the seductress. But you really think it through, what's the cause of robbery? Is the cause of robbery the presence of jewelry in the window of the store, or the presence of greed in the heart of the robber?
Oh, gosh, that's fantastic.
And so
what a great line.
Jewelry doesn't cause a robbery. Beauty doesn't cause lust. The body's not the problem. The body's the answer. The body's the solution. And so long as we blame the body as the problem, we're missing where the real issue is, which is the brokenness in my human heart, that I don't even know how to look at a human body without nothing but lustful thoughts. And so what modesty does is, John Paul II said that in order for women to understand modesty, they need insight into male psychology, of just understanding how easily, a man can start thinking sensual thoughts if he sees a little too much. And so what modesty does, it kind of meets him in that weakness and helps him to elevate.
Right, because we are our brother's keeper.
Yeah.
That's the answer to what Cain, right?
Yeah.
Yes, you are your brother's keeper.
Yeah, and strictly speaking, no, you can't cause somebody to sin, because that needs to be an act of the will, but you can certainly lead them to virtue, by the way that you dress. You're speaking a message. And so modesty is I think it helps a woman find the love that she really deserves. It's not about your body's bad.
So when people probably have like real practical questions about this. All right, let's get super practical.
Yeah.
Like what about tights? What about bikinis? Like what do ladies ask you, and how do you respond?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'll be blunt. Tights are not pants. Tights are bare skin in a different color.
True.
And your butt is not a billboard.
Yeah.
And I don't need to see that much.
In other words, you don't want writing on the back of it.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so, like, if you want to wear tights or something, at least layer, of wear something longer over top or whatever. People are like, oh, but it's so hot, this, that. It's like, you know what? Yeah, I mean, the fashions are going in this direction, but like a bikini, I mean, I often like to talk about how the origins of this whole thing came. Whereas the guy, Louis Réard, was a French automotive engineer who invented the bikini. He actually worked in his mom's lingerie business. And so he's the guy spending all day around women's underwear. And he thought, well, how do we get them to wear this in public? Let's make it waterproof and call it a bathing suit. And so he invented the first bikini, and he tried to get runway models to debut it in France, and nobody would. Because they're like, we're not stupid. We're not wearing underwear in public because it's waterproof. That's ridiculous. And so he had to find a stripper from a casino in Paris to debut the first bikini, because no other model would do it. And so eventually this thing obviously took off. But if you step back and think, well, oftentimes bikini is actually less fabric than underwear.
Yeah.
And I think, well, we get so sucked in the culture. Well, this is just what people do. And, it's you go to the beach, it's hot, you can wear this, but there are good bathing suit companies. Like Hermosa is a new, more modest swimwear, fashion, a bikini, not bikini, but it's a bathing suit company for women called HERMOZA that promotes modest swimwear. And I find a lot of girls actually like it. Like, hey, it can be cute and attractive without having to show so much.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really interesting. Okay, well, but people want more specifics, I suppose. Right. What about men? Like, what do you say to men? Here's what happened. I was in Houston recently, and I was speaking to this woman who was, making her child's dress longer for school. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, that's good. That's a good sign of a school in promoting modesty. And she said, yeah, but I'm a little frustrated with it. It's as if it's all on the woman. Yeah. But I thought, well, I'm not really sure if that's true, right? Because if a dude wore a dress and we could see his underwear, we would also tell him to lower it. Yeah. Some of it's just about the fact of what exactly we're wearing. Yeah, yeah. Our physiology is obviously different. So, I mean, obvious guy's wearing baggy jeans with his boxers hanging out the back. It's like, come on, gotta lift it up. I work out at a CrossFit gym, and it's like halfway through the workout, half the guys throw their shirts off. And, I do that working. Sometimes, but I promise nobody is tempted with what they see. And I'm working. I'm like, but you're right. Do I throw my shirt off? Like, probably immodest. Do I need to throw my shirt off? Is that I don't know how tempting I am. No, you're pretty tempting. You look good, but no, you're right. That is immodest. It's like, do I need to do that? Like, what is this really going to help me get that overhead squat? Now that I have my shirt off, there's that much more flexibility. Sometimes I think we over exaggerate the practicality of why we need to be modest. Oh, it's so hot. Because obviously you need to wear something different when you're in the beach or when you're working out. Yeah. I mean, that's the other thing. Like, I understand if women are wearing tights and a singlet, that makes sense in the gym to me. And a woman at a doctor's office wearing very little but a gown is not immodest. Exactly. So there's a different context for each thing. Do you remember I sent you that advert of that bloke walking out of the beach? And it was saying, like, we call them togs, like a one-piece, men's kind of tidy-whitey. What do you call that? Yeah, European bathing suit, Speedo. Or Australian, Speedos, that's right. And it was like this guy walking from the beach into the city. And there was a voice in the background going, togs, 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 togs. Undies, and then everyone was like, because he had walked into the city centre. So, John Paul II even talked about that, didn't he? The appropriateness of dress is going to depend on the location in which you are. Yeah, what you're going to wear when you go to St. Peter's, Basilica in Rome is different than you're going to wear when you're at the gelati shop down the street. Yeah. And so there needs to be decorum in the different, and discernment with each one. Yeah. But I think if a girl's thinking, is this too tight? Is this too low? Is this too revealing? You've kind of already answered your own question. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Hey, if you enjoyed that clip, you will absolutely love the full interview, so click right there to enjoy the whole thing. Also, a big thanks to these groups who made that interview possible. Learn more in the show notes below about these guys. They're absolutely incredible and honored to have them as sponsors. Oh, and also, if you haven't subscribed yet, click subscribe and then that bell button. That way YouTube will be forced to let you know when we put out more content.